So hello, everyone. I linked this presentation to the docs as well, so you can access it. I didn't prepare with a demo specifically because there is a demo that I had, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago, so you can just watch that. It shows how it shows the advanced setup of the Kubernetes agent, but what I would like to speak here mostly is kind of a comparison with the certificate-based approach. And as by now, many of you, I hope, know we are going to deprecate the certificate-based approach. This lecture request that came from Sid to do it as soon as possible, so we are a bit of a rush there. And I want to make sure that you are ready for this change and discuss what you need from us, for example, to make you ready. So if you have never seen the GitLab Kubernetes agent, these are the primary resources that I would recommend to look at. You are always welcome on our Slack channel with questions or suggestions or feedback. And let's dig into it. So how does it compare to legacy integration? I created this amazing graphic here. These are actually 2 columns. And you should look at it that on the basic integration, features are built. It's like a pyramid if you want. And so what we are deprecating is actually this very basic layer of connecting the cluster with the certificate. As a result, it cascades, and we either can provide a workaround or an integration with the agent-based connection, or that's deprecated as well. The colors are totally arbitrary, I would say, with minor meaning. Red means that there is some issue around that, or it's not available. With the Connect cluster, with certificate, the issue is that it's loved and used often with self-managed customers, but it's actually almost a no-op for GitLab SaaS customers because it requires Kube API access. And even if you can whitelist only the GitLab IP addresses, security often fights back on this, and they're definitely not happy with that integration. And as a result, that's why it's red. The agent was designed in order to avoid this and to make sure that we can provide an integration that's ready for every setup, that's aimed actually for expert users as well, because the other issue with the cluster certificate was, for which it wouldn't be red, is that it's not very flexible and doesn't provide many use cases. But on that certificate, we built features for 4 years now. So there's a huge amount of knowledge on your side, often on that feature set. You know, GitLab managed clusters, for example, that is probably loved by many, many users, especially in development environments, because it creates namespace, creates a service account, pretty automatic. And you might not use it for production workloads, but you can use it for everything non-production, and that's great. Here we have a big red on the agent side because we don't have a workaround for GitLab managed clusters yet. I would say this is the biggest shortcoming of the agent approach, and we are actively ideating on what we could offer. Probably won't have anything by the end of this milestone, but I hope that by the time self-managed customers start to upgrade, which is, as far as I know, around 3 months delayed, by that time, I hope we'll have an alternative offering built on top of the agent as well. I don't know what should I go into. Feel free to ask questions. I will highlight a few things. One is GitOps on the agent side. I don't know if you know what GitOps is, what it is for GitLab and what it is outside of GitLab. Here I just mean pool-based deployment. That's something that was requested by quite a few people. This is the trendy one, something that can be an interesting kind of marketing hook for many, many users. And now, even with the industry standard definition of GitOps, we can support those workloads. So this is something for you to highlight when you want to sell GitLab and GitLab's Kubernetes integrations. Previously, I actually met some customers who thanks to you and some Google engineers who told what GitOps is, they decided to use Argo CD because they understood that it's cool, they understood that they want it, and they understood that we cannot offer it. So that's why now we can do that with the agent. I highlighted CI/CD as well with the agent, and that's very important, that many of our integrations are built around GitLab CI/CD. And you might think that that works only with the certificate-based connection, but this is not true. We have something called the CI/CD tunnel with the agent, where you can actually reach from a GitLab CI job to your cluster, run any commands, even Prometheus queries if you want. So not just kubectl will apply, but any command that requires the cluster connection from GitLab CI. We think that this is an amazing feature for many reasons. Once, this shows that it's really an GitLab integrated product. It's not just another GitOps tool out on the market. Second, it can be interesting for existing GitLab users who want to move to a GitOps approach, and they can start using the agent with the existing tools, and they can move sequentially. And there was a third reason as well, but I don't remember that one. Auto DevOps is great. The reason for that is because it's a big question whether auto is a product or it's a set of templates. But the biggest issue there on the agent side is that currently we don't support auto deploy yet. We want to have at least a documented way how users can use auto deploy with the agent in a few weeks. And in the next milestone, we want to change the templates so that auto DevOps is fully supported with an agent-based connection as well. The final thing is security integrations. So you said the agent is just the connection layer. Other teams are building features on top of it as well. And something that did not exist ever with the certificate-based approach are actually security integrations, like the Cilium network security policies integration. Right now, container host security that was already released, and the container scanning is being released by the container security team. So these things were not feasible at all technically with the legacy integration and exist with the agent base, because there even the cluster can send messages to GitLab. I don't see the questions, so please just voice them if you have any.
Victor, a quick question. So just to confirm, for the auto DevOps and the auto deploy, it sounds like the push model will still be supported with the agent, but maybe in the upcoming months?
Correct, 100% correct. We want to support it through documentation in a few weeks, actually, so that you should be able to understand how it works and so on. And yeah, after that, we want to support it even more UI-based approaches and more automatic approach.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, Victor, there is another question in the document. Vladimir is not here, actually. He put a question via async. Says, given the deprecation of the certificate base, okay, you see that one. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. So actually, we are deprecating only, no, not deprecating. We are moving only one feature set to core. And I just updated our direction page. I hope it got merged already, and you should see it in that case. Yeah, here's the pricing strategy. Let me increase the font size, not that much. So actually, what we found in the past months as the right split for pricing is around permissions. I don't know how much you know Kubernetes, but basically, when you deploy the agent, it requires a service account. And by default, everything that you run through the agent uses the agent service account itself. So even from CI/CD tunnel, you might have an agent in your cluster that is almost a cluster admin. It's not required, but it has kind of extensive rights, let's say, for whatever reason. And then when you run a CI/CD job, by default, it will have the same rights. This is something you probably don't want, especially not in a even moderately sized enterprise setup where trust is not the main issue, but actually it is an issue. So in those situations, you want to restrict the permissions available for the agent. And this is where we are splitting the tiering, which means that in core, you will be able to use all the features using the service account of the agent in your cluster. But in premium, you can say that this CI job should have a totally different set of airbag rules attached. And you can restrict specific jobs or specific users connecting through CI/CD to your cluster. And this is how we tier the agent. Okay. I'm just reading the other questions. Sorry, I will move on and then let's get back to it at the end because there is a lot and I might
Okay.
want some of them. For example, next one around cluster management project template. It's already supported. We might not merge it yet. But again, the cluster management project template runs through GitLab CI/CD. As GitLab CI/CD is supported by the agent, the cluster management project template is supported by the agent. You just have to set it up. I can quickly show you the setup actually. I have this project that I usually use for demos. It's an almost stacked cluster management project template. Actually, this is the job that comes from the project template. And I only added this one line here, use context. And the only thing I have to do is to set the context to an agent context. And basically, this will be the approach for auto deploy as well. Once we set the necessary context, everything just works because we are doing regular Kubernetes connections actually here. And this way you can use Helm, you can use any tool in your GitLab CI pipeline that requires access to your cluster. You just have to set up the proper context to be used. And this already works with the cluster management project template. This is the cluster management project template actually. So what you have to understand if you really want to discuss this and want to be ready for the customers is that it has a totally different mental model than the certificate-based approach. And this is what I would like to explain a bit more what I mean by that. With the legacy approach, you could attach a cluster at specific levels. You had to think about that in advance, that I will attach this cluster here, there, or there. You couldn't move, you couldn't attach the same cluster to two projects. You could, but you have to be careful, like not to have applications and so on. So that was a tricky bit. And then the given owner managed the connections. With the agent-based approach, everything is at the project level for the agent connection itself. We always set up a connection at the project level, but then we can share that connection with other projects and groups. I should have prepared with the docs for this. Let me quickly open it. So you can share the CI/CD tunnel provided by an agent with another project. And again, it happens in the code. So the agent configuration repository holds the configuration for that specific agent. And there you can see that share this connection with other groups or other projects. It's a very, very different mental model than what you are used to. Because here, once again, everything is at the project level. That's where we set up the connection. That's where the main admin interface is for that agent connection. That targets likely platform engineers or SREs. And then we plan to have other views, kind of more lightweight and not less and less operational views for the shared connections at other groups and other projects where developers are just interested whether the deployment is out, what is its status, etc. But they might not be interested in many other things, like all the events happening in the cluster and so on. As a result here, very clearly, the people who manage that project, even with developer rights, can change the agent configuration given their permission setup. So, which might mean that they have to use merge requests, whatever else, and so on. That's how it works. And everything here around the agent capabilities are configured in code. And how does it work from an architecture point of view? This is another bit that I think is very important to understand. It actually has two components. One is this CAS, short for Kubernetes Agent Server, that ships together with GitLab. It's available on gitlab.com since January. And the other component is Agent-K that sits in the user cluster. And how we can set up a secure connection is that first you have to register your agent inside of GitLab, and then you get a registration token. And you use that token in your cluster as a secret, and Agent-K will provide the token to GitLab to authenticate. Once authenticated, it will grab its own configuration file that's encoded in the token where it can be found. And once the authentications, the authentication authorization happened, the Agent-K, the cluster side component, sets up a bidirectional streaming channel between the cluster and GitLab. And this is bidirectional, workloads can come from either end. So that's it. One interesting thing here is how do you upgrade Agent-K? Today, because it has to be upgraded separately of GitLab, of course. Today, we already guarantee that Agent-K is compatible with at least one minor version, plus minus, of your GitLab version. But very likely, we are compatible with even more in a wider spread of version ranges. So you can just upgrade GitLab first, and then you can upgrade Agent-K instances afterwards. As the upgrade happens in code, actually you can upgrade even your Agent-K. You can set up Agent-K to manage itself, and then the upgrade can happen in code. You can upgrade all of your Agent-K installations in a single commit if you want. Once again, how to set up given this thing. First, you have to install this CAS together with GitLab. That happens once only, so you don't need it for every cluster. Then you have to register an instant agent. That means today it's a 4-step process. We want to simplify it by removing the first one. But basically, you grab the token, and then you have to install Agent-K together with the token into your cluster. And you can configure the agent connection afterwards. All of these steps, except for setting up CAS, are shown in the demo video that I linked on the first slide. What are the features today? As I said, the agent is really just the baseline connection, and every other teams can build features on top of it as well. So what are the features that we have today? This is a quick list. I think cluster image scanning is being rolled out as we speak. But basically, these are the existing features. And here you can see that the CI/CD tunnel is free and premium, given the pricing strategy that I quickly discussed. And on the roadmap, first of all, seriously, my top concern now is that I see a few high-value items on the CERT-based integration that we don't have for the agent-based, like GitLab managed clusters, auto-deploy, and the simplicity of that integration. Auto-deploy is, we have a plan. I would say there we are a bit time constrained by making sure that documentation lands before next release, but otherwise we are good there. With the GitLab managed clusters alternative, we don't have a good idea yet. So that's a big question mark. And the ease of use is on our roadmap, which means that we consciously aimed this integration for expert users, because we think that if we can serve expert users well, later on we can add more higher level defaults, features, etc., to help beginner users. As a result, we know that this feature is actually loved by many SREs and people who are familiar with Kubernetes, but is way harder to use for somebody who's not familiar with Kubernetes. So that's a known shortcoming or weakness, let's say, and we want to work on that. Independently of the deprecations, what we saw as the current biggest work that we want to fix is actually observability, because with the cert-based integration, we have the deploy boards and metrics integration and all that stuff. With the agent, we don't have any of that. And even though deploy boards were, so to say, not much praised by the users I interviewed, at least a minimal support around that is needed. And we are looking into how could we do it fast, because the current deprecation, we remove them to deprecated as well. We don't remove anything. So this was the quick intro, and now let's get back to your questions. So John, did I manage to answer your question?
Yeah, I think you've covered really what I was trying to ask. I think, you know, we've really been promoting, you know, as somebody in pre-sales, I routinely promote this idea of auto DevOps, and you know, it really resonates with customers. And so if we're deprecating many of the cool things in auto DevOps, it'd be nice to be able to kind of point the prospects or the customers to, you know, our plans around replacing some of these much loved capabilities, particularly around, you know, incremental rollouts, the deploy boards, as you mentioned. And so, you know, you did point out the direction page. I don't know if many of the things you talked about over the past few minutes are on the direction page, if it's public information yet.
It is. A few things as well. I'm currently writing an announcement blog post about this deprecation that's aimed towards our users. So I try to be extremely empathetic with them, that I know that this is scary at first, like we are deprecating features that they might not. So, and there I try to provide all the links as you suggested, and you are more than welcome to provide feedback on that. I will try to quickly look up the merge request, so I can link it here.
Okay, great, thank you.
This is it. Could somebody voice the next one, please, while I type?
Me, please. So this is Mirko. I remember I had two challenges when playing with an early version. So first of all, deleting the connections. I had to learn GraphQL, by the way. So what is done on the UI side for, you know, clean handling of it? That is one question. And the other one I had, I don't really remember fully, but there was a way to set up two projects to define that configuration, and that didn't work for me. So one part was the connection, another part was the manifest directory that to be monitored, and that didn't work for me. So I had to have both. I had to have both things in one project.
Yeah. Let's start with the UI. Specifically, the one that you mentioned around that, I think we are aware of it. It's not highly prioritized on the roadmap, given all the necessary work here around deprecations. If we look at the UIs in the Kubernetes page, it's a mess. Everything. It's really hard even to find the agent-based integration page. So we are first fixing that. Then we want to provide it. We want to make it easier for the shared group level sharing and project level shared CI/CD tunnel connections to have some insights at the group level and at the project level, where you can even show that this is the kube context you should use, etc. But specifically deleting connections, we are aware of that as well. It's just further out in the future.
Okay.
For setting up things, probably it's a bit misleading that we have two things. One is the dictionary that we use, and the other is what it means in practice. In terms of dictionary, we have a configuration project, a manifest project, and an application project.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember well. In reality, the configuration and the manifest projects are the same for the pull-based approach. For push-based, you can share the connection and it doesn't matter. But for the pull-based, they have to be the same. We don't have a good idea yet how to handle the permissions issues around taking manifests from a different project. So that's why we are not even, we wanted to look into it in the next month, but probably we won't do it for a few months now, given this deprecation. So if you want to have pull-based, pull-based, then just use a single project for your manifest and config. That's the TLDR.
Yeah, okay, that matches my experience.
Yeah.
Cool. If I have the next, and it's more triggering a discussion or a potentially decision. I think we are seeing or we're challenged with some kind of dilemma here. From an SA perspective, I'm currently talking about the job of the solutions architect. When we are demoing Kubernetes integration today, and for the last kind of couple of years even, we were following that cert-based approach, obviously, and a big emphasis of every single demo was the observability. Well, we kicked in auto deploy, we had the deploy board, we had the metrics, that kind of stuff. We were scaling up and doing things like canary deployments. And this is all these things are under one word that is called observability. And this is not available with that Kubernetes agent approach today. And I totally agree with the statement that you made, Victor, that at the very least, when GitLab.com SaaS is the development platform, pretty much the cert-based approach for security concerns of ops teams is dead in the water. This is not matches the requirement of an enterprise DevOps platform, and that's what we're selling. We're not selling a teeny tiny development tool to do some little bit of development stuff, right? So we're an enterprise DevOps platform. So I'm somewhat tempted to say that we actually quickly need to rethink what we demonstrate and communicate to prospective customers as quickly as we possibly can. And I'm also tempted to say that we should be stopping that kind of demo approach that we're doing now, because we are practically misleading or showing something that is lacking enterprise readiness. And and this is, I think, a call to action specifically for the SAs here. We need to replace that with something. I don't know yet what that something exactly is, what we could easily demonstrate that has some eye candy and is compelling in the first place, and that and equally attractive what we're having today. But I think we should really kind of make a significant step in the next couple of weeks to rethink what we demonstrate and how we communicate that. I'm happy to hear any disagreement, but that's my current thinking. I didn't want to kill that call.
Yeah, no disagreement from me there, Frank. For sure. I think we definitely need to do that. And I've kind of quit showing that in my last few demos after a conversation last week with Ken McKnight, where he really pointed out to me how broadly deprecated a lot of that functionality was, and kind of opened my eyes to the fact that, wow, I should stop showing that. So
Victor, how long is it? How long is the deprecation period?
We don't plan to remove the features yet.
Okay.
The thing is,
Cesar, I wouldn't care. From an SA perspective, talking to enterprise customers, I'm not so much concerned about the deprecation. If the cert-based approach of interacting with a Kubernetes cluster isn't showing enterprise readiness, then by all means deprecate it. But we just need to deal with that situation. And
Yeah,
and that's the task at hand.
I see
So
what
it's
you're
fine.
saying, but one of our end users, I mean, are developers. So if developers are interested in seeing that, you're basically, saying, no, we're not going to show you that. Although
But we're
that may
making
be a
our rod
feature.
for our own back and for the temps in question if we as SAs showing something that would not make it into production. That's the problem. I'm pretty harsh on that, but I think it's better to make a significant move as quickly as we possibly can when we think it is not kind of sustainable as an enterprise solution. Then we should kind of equip ourselves to progress here and to show and present it in a way that is leading towards a proper enterprise adoption. And I'm more than happy kind of taking part in an initiative to figure out and crafting what the potential demo set around that could possibly be. But I think we should do it quickly.
All right. Thanks, Gronk. And Cesar. Tim, you're up next.
Thanks, Victor. I wanted to confirm you had kind of showed the the slide of how everything's communicating, and I just wanted to confirm that the runner is actually reaching out through CAS into the agent. How does the runner validate that the project or the runner should have access to the thing? Is it using the RJOT?
Basically, it's like we inject the Kubernetes context into the runner. And what I've shown you before, I've shown you here before.
Yep.
If you would run, instead of kubectl use context, you would run this context. You would see all the contexts that were injected by GitLab, and GitLab injects. So basically, GitLab knows which projects have access to specific agents using the reverse index on the GitLab DB, and we inject those contexts specifically into your CI environment, into runner environment, and it has a token as well. So it's not a CI job token or anything like that. And after that, that's how it authenticates with CAS. Gotcha. Cool. Thank you. I can try to speed through my other questions too. I didn't realize that the K8s agent and CAS communication was bidirectional, so I was curious as to why, some of the things that we get with the certificate based, which allows bidirectional, isn't permitted. Yeah, the thing is that certificate doesn't allow bidirectional. So certificate based only allows GitLab to reach out to the cluster cannot reach back. That's why the agent has support for network policy alerts, because there the alert comes from the cluster towards GitLab. But nevertheless, I try to answer the question here is that many of the features that we have are actually not enterprise ready. I would agree. As a result, we never aimed at feature parity. Yeah. That's the bottom line of my answer. I never wanted to build out support for features that I don't want our users to use. A very good example here is deploy boards, for example, where I was searching for a long time for users, how they use it, etc. And the truth is, I couldn't find any. What I learned is that it's not ready for production use case. It's perfect when you set up a cluster and at the first days it's very handy and so on, but nothing if you needs a bit more serious usage around that. So the use case is valid. We know that it's valid. Deploy boards validated it for us, but our implementation falls short from the user requirements. As a result, my plan was for a long time to provide a similar functionality, but a bit more robust, more enterprise ready one instead of providing feature parity. That's why we never wanted, and now we might change this, but until now we never wanted to reuse the same Rails code base that has support for all these features that in the end might be good for demo, but actually leave our users without much support when they want it for bigger use cases, for more load.
My last one, I'll just verbalize. I think the work that we're doing in this space, I think it's the right direction to take. It makes a lot of sense. Historically, we've kind of attached our CD strategy to Kubernetes, and now that we're changing and deprecating some of these capabilities, like from an observability perspective, I think it really hinders our ability to have a continuous deployment vision and strategy. And I'm hopeful that we can course correct and get in the right direction. But I'm hopeful that, Victor, you're not only talking to from a Kubernetes perspective, but also from a kind of a whole deployment strategy vision perspective with Kevin and the from that perspective. So
yeah, I wouldn't go into the deployment direction now because we had this course now for a different reason. I'm super happy to discuss it with you. The truth is we don't have a strategy there yet. We identified many pain points, but we are still looking into it in more detail by running UX research and everything along those lines. And I would love to start working on it probably early next year.
Yep. Okay. Joe, I'll let you verbalize your question.
Yeah, thanks again, Victor. Do we have any field marketing initiatives in promoting the new agent? I had the opportunity to attend KubeCon in LA just a couple of weeks ago, and while we had the booth, we didn't have any physical callouts to promote the agent. So I know KubeCon in Europe is in May 2022, and I think it might be a really good idea to highlight that agent at the booth or even have a talking session by a customer.
I would defer this to Cesar, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so the answer is, well, I couldn't attend KubeCon, apologies for that. We are working on assets. There are actually a couple of assets already out there about the Kubernetes agent, plus something that is coming up in December is a webinar. We're working with field marketing, and we're gonna put out a GitOps webinar on Bright Talk, and that's gonna be promoting the Kubernetes agent as well. Somi and I are working on anything related to marketing GitOps, and agent is very much a key aspect of that messaging.
Thanks, Cesar. And then I guess another point to that is, I don't know if the right marketing term on this, if it's guerrilla marketing and going to those local Kubernetes meetups in the cities and really promoting it. That might be a really good opportunity, especially for the community contributions.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Let me write it down here somewhere. There's a bigger conversation that we need to have. And it's kind of, I'm referencing that in lower in the set of questions in the document about GitOps, because I think we touched on this last time I spoke to you guys. So there's a GitOps working group with at the CNCF, and it's very much Kubernetes centric. And so my question lower in the document is GitOps just for Kubernetes? Or, I mean, I think it behooves us if we position GitOps as something above the platform itself, because that emphasizes our differentiators of, the GitLab or GitOps. I mean, we can make the GitLab flow a GitOps flow, right? And add in all of our value above just the Kubernetes platform. So I think if we position ourselves that way, we have an advantage over Weaveworks and companies that are just focusing on Kubernetes, right? With our positioning, you can, Kubernetes is just one of the targets. If you want to update load balancers, security groups, databases, you can still do GitOps workflows with us compared to other competitors. So, so definitely, I mean, the Kubernetes groups should be a target for our marketing, but also, all other non-Kubernetes groups should also be part of that, I think. But this is a bigger discussion to have. Maybe.
Thank you.
I think, Cesar, you may want to ask Joel's follow-up question there about looking into promoting contributions by marketing that to Argo.
Yeah. So around GitHubs Engine, the question I tried to answer here, we started with GitHubs Engine, but we moved away to CLI utils.
Okay, good.
The reason for that is manifold, actually. One is it provided quite a few features out of the box, like pruning of resources, and we didn't have to develop all those things. It's way more modern than the code base that comes from Argo CD and was put into GitHubs Engine. As a result, it has much less, 20% less dependencies. I don't remember whether 20% is the file size or the number of dependencies, but I remember it was around 20%.
Okay.
So it has a very different model as well. Like Argo CD uses labels for everything. Here you have an inventory policy and inventory object that provides more flexibility as well. So there are quite a few things that can be CLI utils, but now we use CLI utils.
Okay. And then I think the rest Cesar, unless you're okay with Victor's answers, they'll want to follow up on those.
Right.
Yeah, I'm basically, there's one more that I did not answer, I guess, which is community contributions. We haven't seen many of them, actually. I think we had like 3 or 4 community contributions. One of them came from Marshall Cottrell, who is now at GitLab. He was a very early and strong supporter of this development direction. And we haven't looked into promoting contributions.
Yeah, thanks.
On the other hand, one more note here is that actually we just moved the agent to core last week. So I expect way more interest and even contributions in the coming months as a result.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Are we calling our GitOps approach or implementation, are we calling it by specific name or not? Like cargo CD, flex CD, all that. Something like that.
Like Kubernetes agent, nothing more specific.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think marketing got to answer that.
That's what I was asking, if you had anything in mind. Okay.
On the other hand, for marketing, what I would recommend to, unfortunately, the industry moved on, and there is now accepted principles around GitOps that are not GitLab friendly in the sense of pool-based deployments are explicitly excluded, basically.
Right. I saw that.
So my recommendation would be to start communicating about GitOps that is just a minor step in the DevOps evolution.
Right.
And we should just skip to the next one, where GitLab can position itself strongly.
Yeah.
And we should come up with a name for that.
Yeah.
Which is this really integrated, where all your alerts are together with your source code, etc. And something along those lines.
I agree. Yeah, elevating the conversation to shake off this very limiting definition that is being pushed by a specific competitor in the market.
Yes.
about what GitOps really is, which is really limiting if you think about it. It's like saying Java is just Java EE and ignoring Spring. Right.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone for your contribution and discussions. We're almost at time, 2 minutes before time. Any other last comments, Victor?
If nothing,
Keep
then
going
you can
quickly.
find us. Yeah, go ahead.
Keep going quickly.
So I have a quick one, Victor. How many developers are on this project? How many are helping make this happen?
The agent itself is developed only by the configure team. We were in all kinds of helping out other teams' projects in the past months. So I would say that the backend code was developed regularly by 2, maximum 3 people. But for example, the container security, network security team, they are super interested in this direction, and that's how they added features as well. So it was basically 2, 3 backend engineers, and we received a front-end engineer at the beginning of summer, and that's when we started to build out the UIs, because before that we didn't have a front-end engineer, and the backend engineer tried to build UJS UI, which his final sentence was that he prefers not to do it again.
Yeah, seemed like a pretty big change. That's what it seems.
Yeah, it is a huge change. Okay, thank you very much for being interested in all of this and asking all the questions. If you have any more questions, you can reach me in the S-Configure or F-Kubernetes agent channels. I'm available in both of them. I would recommend, if you try it out and have questions, more technical ones, then go to the F-Kubernetes agent channel. If you have more questions about the direction or have feedback from users or questions, then come to S-Configure, because there the whole team is ready and available to help you.
Thank you, Victor.
All right. Thanks, Victor. Thanks, everyone, for attending.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Hope you have a great day.
Bye.